and everybody else. Welcome to the Cards at a Time Quickshot, joined by Dagda. And I want to say a special shout out to Andrea. After that last game, yes, I think even the Meeps are mad at Mad Lions.
Yeah, Neergo's art is absolutely insane. Well worth checking out. Been following her for a little bit actually, so definitely recommend it. But we're going to have to see exactly what's going to be kicking off in this game, because I think we're going to have a bit of a bloodbath on our hands.
I've got a strange feeling like we had a biblical tier storm earlier today. Thank you, Berlin. Everybody that braved the weather to get to the studio, seriously, you're the real heroes today. There is some sunshine at the moment. But after that last game between Mad and XL, I just gotta hope, I'm praying we get some more of that juicy, spicy Fiesta energy.
Yeah, especially when I look at Astralis, like I feel like these guys have done the best when they're able to go for these like early skirmishing comps, especially like towards topside, right? Like we got the Gragas Yasuo, we've seen like Rumble Yasuo, these kind of things where you're like, oh yeah, our solo lanes can pop off with our jungler. So I kind of want them to go back towards that style, especially against G2, where it's like, okay, let's see if we can take the fight to them early and rip this game out of their control.
We've got a fan here in the audience who has made a sign for Leader, and it says, Leader, pick Irelia. Gentleman is wearing an Astralis jersey, and I would love to see it happen. We are moments away from picks and bans. G2 are on the blue side. Astralis are on the red side. We're still 13-11. Let's hit picks and bans, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. All right, Berlin, start the chant. You know exactly what it is. As they begin the chant, Dagda, talk me through your expectations here. We have seen a couple Melios already. Definitely one of the champions that is still predominantly banned. Not yet removed. I am expecting it. The Yuumi, the Zeri, the Melio, they're the high priority picks for the time being.
Yeah, Draven's still going to be taken off the board as well. I want to see, though, from G2, we got the Kog'Maw Braum from them yesterday, and I mean, they end up winning the game in the end because Hansama managed to pop off on it, but I think I want to see them with something they can actually try and play around a bit heavy in that bottom side. Even if you want to go late game, the Aphelios, at least then you can still try to play for some of these skirmishes, but it just felt like you didn't have that opportunity. Is Blitzcrank going to be taken off the way? So
what does that mean? If Blitzcrank is banned,
Yuumi
going for Yuumi first pick, that's the setup.
Oh,
I think this crowd's gonna boo. I think this crowd's gonna boo.
Yeah, Berlin's holding their breath. I can hear it, but... Oh. Okay, so it's going to be Yike going towards his Maokai. Like, it's been 3 games from so far. It's worked out brilliantly, and I'm not surprised to see him go back towards it here, but there's the hover, and there's the lock-in from JeongHoon of all people. I thought we'd get something a little bit different, but yeah, Yuumi's just so incredibly strong at the moment. Zeri going to be taken in beside her as well, so brilliant bot lane secured right now for Kobbe and JeongHoon. Another question is, what do you want to try and answer with? Will it with Blitzcrank off the board? You want to try and go probably aggressive here, so it could be something like an Aphelios and a Nautilus maybe, or something a bit more along those lines.
Tell me if I'm reading this right. If you are banning Blitzcrank and forcing Astralis to remove either the Melio or the Yuumi, wouldn't you be setting up for a Yuumi first pick? Like, isn't Blitzcrank one of the champions you're quite happy to run into that champion? And then going Maokai. So I'm scratching my head about the strategy for the time being. And they're going to pivot. We're going to go straight back to Kog'Maw Braum. Okay, yeah. So what do you make of this now?
So I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think what G2 have always been quite good at, especially in this split, is like, hey, we're going to try and take these early skirmishes where we move Hansama with us. So we'll rotate him up after he gets bot lane control to things like first Rift Herald and start to get the game in our favor that way. The Braum and the Kog'Maw just don't really have it, and we saw them really struggle against SK yesterday as a result of that, where you were kind of waiting for Hansama to come online to be that big damage dealer before you got into a position. Now, it will have better scaling, this Kog'Maw, than the Zeri in the late game because of the percentage health and everything he does is going to be fantastic, but it does kind of seem to me like G2 are saying, hey, look, we're just going to wait till late game, play for this mega scaling and see what happens.
Well, if they aren't going to be playing for mega scaling, what do they put in the middle lane? Number of those priority picks still there. We have seen the Azir rising in priority. Yeah, both bot lanes and junglers are secured, so that's probably my first sign or indication. Do Astralis think they want to ban it? If they don't, what does Leader want to run into it? Because if there were a pick that Leader has a champion pool that could punish, Azir's one of those champions that Leader could be, happy running into if he's feeling confident.
He'd like to try and take some of those AD picks into it, right?
Yes.
To see if he can go a bit nuts. But the problem is, you usually need AP elsewhere. Now, Zeri does do about 40% AP damage, so she's quite high, but it's just not quite as much as you would need when you look towards something like you'd want to go Rumble maybe in the top side for Finn or something along those lines. But you haven't really got set up for the Rumble. You're not really having a strong jungler that you can play around either because it is a more skirmish focused one. So I'm honestly not entirely sure. I wouldn't be surprised to see Leader just go back towards something like the Annie unless it's banned away and just play for that instead, even if the Azir is taken.
I wouldn't mind the Annie with what's on the board already because the Astralis trio look good to me, like the 2v2s, the skirmishes. But when we start looking at 5v5s, I much prefer having a Maokai and a Braum for both your engage, your disengage, your peel and protection for the Kog'Maw. I want to see what Astralis puts in front of their respective bottom laner. They're going to ban away the Renekton and the Jace for their Phase 2 bans. Gragas is the first from G2, one option remaining. And then Astralis can lock in something you would anticipate for Finn and then leave mid lane for Leader. I'm not certain. Akali was the final ban.
Yeah, I mean, it is a decent answer for a Leader, but again, you know the Leader wants to try and go for these, okay, we're going to go for the K'Sante immediately and keep counterpick for Leader, or maybe even K'Sante being flexed into mid, but I think this is it. You just go for the Azir. You're like, cool, we're basically just going to go for this mega scaling. You should have push in mid. You should have a decent amount of control over bot. You won't have like full control, but it means that then it's a bit harder for 113 for go for invades or anything along those lines. And then the question mark is, what does BrokenBlade want to take into that top side, especially because like we've seen some picks starting to do okay into the K'Sante, even things like the Olaf and that. So there's the Azir. The question is, how aggressive do you want to go into that top lane for BrokenBlade?
That is the question. Waiting a few seconds to run through the options. Hover and GP, hover on Gwen. Both champions again that lean into the scaling, lean into teamfight, also can help on the side lane too.
The only thing I've seen though is, in the LPL specifically, Gwen has actually started to, at least people thought it was a counter, but is actually being won out by the K'Sante now with the Jack show and stuff. So not as big of a counter as it used to be. So he's going to go back towards the Gnar instead. And I mean, it's a great setup here, right? You've already got the Maokai engage, you get the follow up with the Gnar and the Braum. And then even when you're playing very short range here for Astralis, you're going to have to try and play into the Kog'Maw and the Azir, who have great peel. So I just like what G2 have at the moment.
And I like the versatility of it because they can play skirmish, they can play team fight. And the final lock-in here for Leader will confirm Finn running K'Sante top, Neeko running in the mid lane. So as far as the beefiness goes, I think points in favor of G2. When you look at the Maokai, the Gnar, the Braum, in front of two carries that prefer to be static. Yes, Azir has mobility with the Scoop and the Emperor's Divide, but he really wants to be standing using those Sand Soldiers to continually attack. On the other side of Astralis, they're looking for the all-in. They're looking for the dives. They're looking to pop you immediately so they can blossom on a team fight and look for another win.
And it feels like, again, Astralis are going to be looking for these heavy skirmishes so they can try and snowball this in their advantage. If you end up just playing for the late game, I mean, this is easy G2. G2 don't really have to do particularly much in these early stages. They can just play for Barons and even like 3rd, 4th Dragons if they want to. We saw it again against SK yesterday, how strong it can have that bounce back potential. So this is a big question mark now for Astralis. How quickly can they close out this game to prevent this mega scaling on the opposite side?
And the scary thing is, they're still scaling on the side of Astralis. It's just significantly more difficult to execute, right? Because they don't have that traditional kind of front line or front to back engage. But Neeko, K'Sante, Viego, Zeri, like, I am scared of them at 3, 4, 5 items. Yeah, it's just how coordinated they've got to be is a lot more difficult.
It's also just, as you say, like good peel from G2 makes it very difficult. Yes. The fact that you've now got to like dive into them is not going to be ideal. And even then, K'Sante, like, he kind of hates percentage HP, right? Because so much of his health bar is just the amount of resist that he has. But we'll have to see as we're going to be getting into this one.
That was the toss. He tipped the left. And hello, B's, G's, and NBs. Listen to the fans cheer from Berlin. That is a dominant G2 chant. I wonder if the Astralis fans will be able to muster any noises. Actually, will they feel comfortable cheering for Astralis when they locked in Yuumi? Ooh, dirty.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's already a few people that are going to refund them at the shop outside, you know, get the new jerseys. But look, that's the thing. Yumi's just so incredibly strong that if she is left open, you kind of have to.
Yes.
Especially with things like the Zeri. Now, the thing is, they don't actually have the highest win rate when you look at it globally. Like, it has been a bit of a mixed bag, but the potential that you have with this combo is absolutely absurd. the problem again, though, is you are quite short range. You're heavily reliant, honestly, on JeongHoon to be a lot of your engage unless leader has flash up. So I think this is where G2, again, if they can just play at range and keep Astralis off the backline, they're going to be in a good spot.
Thank you, Astralis fan club. That was louder than I was anticipating. And the pressure is on. I want to see the Astralis fans making noise. Also, thank you to production, trying to throw up those fan cams as they are cheering. As we look at the minimap, 113 immediately pinging the blue buff, where Yike has just chucked a Sentinel, used that blast cone. Observers have done the vision toggle, so we'll see a little bit of an engage here. Tree may get cut down by this Blade of the Ruined King. Bramble smash back, because if you look at the minimap, Neeko as well as K'Sante pushing towards G2. So if any further shenanigans play out, you assume Astralis may be able to respond first.
Yeah, the problem is, though, that Caps is kind of in a spot where he starts to push out, and this reset has come through twice now on the blue buff. So this is going to start to become a bit of an issue, and Yike is relatively happy if 113 actually spends a bunch of time here, right? Because he can move over towards his wolves, but also the fact as well that, I mean, a Maokai is still going to be relevant regardless, whereas for 113, you do have to try and get these leads. So it looks like 113 will eventually manage to steal this way, though. It might come down to a smite fight.
Getting a little close. Do you think this is going to be problematic for 113? He's lost a lot of time. May be able to get in here behind BrokenBlade. The Wolf is now starting to reset as well. And 113, he's back. Come on, round 3. It hasn't worked the 2 previous times. Let's go for it once more, Dagda.
This blue buff doesn't know what's happening. It's just been casually chilling there, and suddenly it's been punched in the face several times. Now BrokenBlade's managed to come across, up over the wall to prevent him from getting stunned, and bunch of waste of time there from 113. He's not going to get anything.
No, he's not. Let's take a look at the experience as well. Yike should be getting relatively close to 3.
Yeah, he'll off this.
There we go. As soon as he picks that one up, on last auto, just about.
No,
so off the Gromp will be the next one. 113 will be able to pick up his red. Technically, not a significant advantage yet, but an interesting approach to the first few minutes here for 113. And I think more importantly, it may signal a mentality to this game if 113 wants to continue looking to invade, looking to counter jungle, looking to try to fight this Maokai to try slow him down somewhat.
Yeah, and I think that would be the idea if that had been successful for 113, but the fact he is behind now, like he's 2 camps down, it's going to make things significantly easier. He might try and fight the Maokai again on this Skull Crab, but bot side.
All right, there is at least a bite to Kobbe. 2 tags from Mikyx Braum. BrokenBlade's going to hop towards a minion.
Oh, he missed the minion.
Not going to be able to do it. Doesn't get the secondary. Forced to flash. So because of missing that minion, doesn't get that additional distance. But it did get 2 flashes out of Astralis. Both Finn and 113 committing theirs. So technically, another small win here for G2.
Yeah, and you should be relatively safe as the Gnar because you do have that jump away. Now as well, you also miss out on Skull Crab on top side. So 113 falling further behind as Yike gets a reset in and is now going to be able to move into his bottom side jungle as well. So 113 falling very far behind in this one.
Let's keep an eye then on what their next move is. Dead even on CS across the board. Kobbe and JeongHoon going to push back this wave. Recall coming out here from Hansam on the Kog'Maw. What do you make of Kog'Maw? Coming from a region that really put Kog'Maw on the map, I feel, you know, over the years.
Yeah, SMLZ, still an absolute Kog'Maw legend. But, I mean, I think the big one is... at the moment, he's so strong with the amount of tanks that are in it and the fact that you just get to go for this uber scaling. But I think the issue is not so much with the champion pick. I think it's the way G2 like to play, because they do want to play for, you know, skirmishes. They want to try and play for first Rift Heralds and that kind of thing. Like, G2 are very good at snowballing the game off of those, and Kog'Maw isn't really a pick that lends itself to that. It also holds Mikyx to the bot lane. I think Mikyx has been probably the best support we have in Europe at the moment, is actually finding those windows where he can influence mid lanes, where a lot of supports have kind of given up on that roam timing.
So tell me if I'm summarizing this correct. You kind of like the champion in isolation in terms of the picks that we're seeing in the meta, the way game is played out, but the way that G2 approaches their macro, approaches their actual, you know, professional games, maybe not the best fit. So I guess in this regard, let's see how the laning phase plays out. Let's see how they move Hansam around, if at all. Because also what you said during draft, Dagda, was that you're kind of looking at Astralis to look for an earlier advantage, looking to get that ball rolling a little quicker, just because of the composition that G2's put together and the terror that it could cause the later we go.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason we saw 113 going for these early invades, trying to get something going. Now has JeongHoon is going to attach to him in a second, so they are definitely trying to make these plays work, but a lot of it is going to be like mid-jungle support trying to work together. You get the push in mid here, maybe you can start to lean across, but 113 going a little bit before the time.
All right, the Blossom has been popped and support around. 3v3 long range engage. Bramble smash underneath the tower. 1-1-3 about to get stunned, and a you and me put between them keeps everybody alive. A number of abilities thrown in, but I think, again, summoner spell advantages to G2 Esports.
Yeah, and it also means that you should be able to get control over things like the Dragon now in a second as well. Leader not having that flash makes him way less of a threat if you're able to set up the Dragon correctly. The downside is Cap's very low man in the mid lane as well, so he'll need to clear out this wave, then retreat. But to be honest with Hans Sama, you kind of need to wait until he gets pushing bot lane before you can move across, and even then, that could go a bit sideways. We saw it yesterday against SK.
Listen, I love seeing Zeri running away in fear. I just didn't think it was going to be from a Kog'Maw in the bottom lane. Obviously, Hans Sama procs that W steps forward.
Was he got that dog in you, I think Draco's was on about yesterday. Yeah, we can bring them all back. Yeah.
Let's find out if Hans Sama's bark is worse than his bite or vice versa. Both of these laners have got those Berserker's Greaves. Return to lane. Also, it's dogs versus cats in the bottom lane. The ultimate battle. I mean, it's not really a battle. Dogs are just better. Cats suck. There, you heard me say it.
I'm there with you.
Thrown down. As all of a sudden, BrokenBlade and Finn dropping low. Finn is now backed up. Here comes Yike. That's already the kill in what's turned into a 1v2.
He has no flash.
Doing Cassante things, and Yike can do naught but step for his life. Pull backwards. Double kill for Finn.
Somewhere Showmaker's rolling his eyes at that one. My God, Finn getting the double kill on that one. I mean, we needed Astralis to get these early leads. Well, Finn is kind of taking that into his own hands. BrokenBlade tries to make the play happen, but watch the W here. Finn prevents the knockback from the ultimate there, then has the follow-up of his own ult. And BrokenBlade, he'd already burnt that flash as well in that initial gank. So with the mobility you get on this Cassante with the ultimate popped, he's able to chase down the Gnar. From that point forward, there's just not enough damage in Yike's artillery to actually bring anything to the forefront.
Well, listen, as far as Astralis are concerned, the path has been laid before them. A double kill for Finn in the top lane. Keeping in mind, that champion was first picked in that second rotation. Could have been banned, wasn't. The answer was the Gnar. For now, not working out. Astralis only 400 gold up, and we're setting up here for the engage. Pop Blossom comes down. Mikyx going to be able to block that. The Nature's Graph roots up multiple members. The Herald has been secured, and G2 now on the assault. They've got their first kill of the game. It's onto Leader. They find the stun onto Finn. The Living Artillery will not connect. Astralis get away. Kills secured by G2. I think the eye was denied by that one.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to get onto this either. 1-3 is no way to go over the wall. Same with Finn. So nicely done by G2. I was a bit scared for them as they came in. Like, you're fighting early with an Azir and a Kog'Maw. Not exactly the best of champions, but the fact that you actually managed to prevent Leader getting in again, that flash being burned, so crucial for Leader actually being able to set that up. And then they managed to get a kill for themselves. Now, you got Hans Sama on top side. He should manage to get a plate. Should be responded by Kobbe on that bottom side then.
All right, now Finn under some pressure. The duo of G2 pushing in. Pathmaker comes out, stun almost connecting. Looking at the minimap, 1-1-3's coming to cover. I think that plate is just about full. Going to be trading. Still dead even as far as gold is concerned.
Yeah, and I think that's where, at least for Kobbe and JeongHoon, the fact you did manage to get on bot side here means that you should be able to get it. You have to reset here as Finn, though, just with how low you are. Even 1-1-3 coming up to try and cover, and they don't know where Yike is. Will now be spot on the ward, which is why Finn is a little bit more confident to stick around here.
Oh, Caustic Spittle didn't find his targets. Finn forces the flash out. Man, 2022 champions. They are just forcing everybody back.
I mean, look, I'm not... You can say it's a 2022 champion,
you know
but
what?
still, Kog'Maw diving you solo probably isn't the call either.
I'm not going to ask my stats team to do this, but somebody on Reddit or Twitter, please do. What is the average age of G2's champion composition? I reckon it's going to be around 8, 9 years old, maybe 10. And if you look at the average age of the Astralis composition, I reckon we're going to be at about 3. Now,
I mean, Gnar's been around for a while.
That's my point, right? So, no, Maokai, so we might be 9, 10 years old, average age for G2's comp. So let's see. Will the old school win or the new school? Right now, it's Astralis marginally ahead on the kills, but gold is not reflecting. I think when you look at the CS differences, I think when you look at the advantage that Yike has been able to pick up with that kill in his back pocket, right now Yike is off to a good start and will be asked to set up those plays because his primary job will be to hold the enemy in place and peel for Azir and Kog'Maw to do damage.
Yeah, also just, he's the prime setup as well, right? That ultimate coming through is the idea, is set up for BrokenBlade. He's going to come through with the ultimate. Mickey being able to go in with his own ultimate as well. Maybe the flash might be needed in certain circumstances as well. But the whole idea for G2 is, look, chill out. We prevented the Herald, prevented that early gold for Astralis. Let's just keep on chugging on as we start to get towards the late game.
Oh my god, okay, so we're gonna have some fun with this. I have just heard that my stats team are working on the average age, so I'll be able to validate this for you in a little bit.
O'Day is a legend.
Can we play a little game quickly? Because the person on G2 that has a kill is Yike. Dagda, how many games has Yike played in the LEC?
It can't be that many.
49 games.
Oh, okay.
Now the next thing, for everybody watching at home, how many games has Leader played in the NEC? The answer is 57 games. Why do I solo these two outs? Yike is 2 kills away from a 200 kill record. Leader is 1 kill away from a 200 kill record. So there's going to be more confetti and more celebrations. Who will get it first is the question. Astralis have been starting their first dragon, and that will be secured uncontested. 12 minutes in, we are setting up for some big fights in the mid game.
You can see, though, that G2 understand when and where they need to fight. They don't actually try and commit for the dragon because it's like, well, Leader now has his flash. He's 10 times more potent. Plus, Hansama's farming away in the top side. He's going to be perfectly happy as well. So at the moment, G2 just looking to say, hey, we've delayed enough. Rift Tower gone. First dragon at 12 minutes into the game. Like, we're under no pressure here. So again, Astralis, it doesn't really feel like they've had control over the game enough to try and push it forward. So bar G2 making some massive mistake, I think G2 are just going to wait it out.
Well, that's what the plan is. And from picks and bans, that was an approach that we kind of felt could work, was comfortable in terms of the composition. I do have this funny feeling today. The weather's weird, the games have been strange. And for Astralis, with all of the mobility and the tools in their kit, K'Sante, Viego, as well as the Neeko, and then that is flanked and backed up by a Zeri, Yuumi. I mean, Yuumi plus any one of those four is terrifying, right? You think of her popping on the back of K'Sante and throwing down the final chapter, or in this case, 113's Viego. The Unbreakable comes up, holding on to that ultimate for now. Caps could be the target. Emperor's Divide comes out. Caps flashes for his life. The knockback onto Leader is huge, and the damage on 113 is enough to just about force him down. The Heartbreak is up, and 113 survives. 113 gets the kill. BrokenBlade completes the teleport. He is in trouble. I was so convinced 113 was going to drop, but he did not. And Astralis once again stepping forward, pressuring G2. Prowling projectile will slow down BrokenBlade, whose Mega Gnar's about to time out. 113 continuing the chase. The Zoomies helping out Finn, the next target. Won't be able to find that knockback, and while all of that's going on, Leader was pushing that wave into the middle tower.
Yeah, managed to get the crash as well, but also on top side, Hansama got that crash of his own, so... But both sides will back away with G2 only losing Mikyx, but nice job from Astralis there to try and collapse on it. Even 113 as well, buffering the ultimate to get over the knockback from Caps to keep that play going.
So nicely done. The execution in these skirmishes has been very, very impressive. Minor things having an influence. I think had Leader not been pushed back by that Maokai, the Pop Blossom could have done a lot more work, but I also respect 113 JeongHoon really holding on to the trigger for the initiation.
Yeah, and big ultimate there from 113 to actually get this, and just as Caps has to back away because of the ultimate coming through from the Yuumi, it buys that time that 113 needs. He doesn't end up falling down. Mikyx ends up going down, 113 flashing forward to make sure that that kill definitely went across, and then after he picks up the soul of Braum, there's little that you can really do. Not quite able to get onto BrokenBlade there is Finn, but now Kobbe moving up towards the top side to answer Hansama and Mikyx.
Well, what can Kobbe and JeongHoon do? Right now, dead even as far as the CS is concerned. Rageblade versus Triforce. While we have a brief moment, thank you so much, LoL Esports Stats team. I'd like to validate for everyone now watching that from the time a champion was released until today, will be considered their age. The average age of G2's team composition is 10.4 years. The average age of Astralis's, which right now is looking for another kill, its Leader's 200, is 2.8 years. The young kids on the block, and they're not done yet. They shall fissure fire that, and it does little to nothing. The Rift Herald is available, but with Leader's kill secured, that is 200 in 57 games.
Brilliant stuff from Leader. The fact that he's able to get on the Neeko as well feels a bit fitting with how strong the champion is at the moment, but Leader has definitely made a name for himself coming back into Astralis, helping to right a lot of what was wrong with Astralis, and now even bringing out things like the Yasuo. It's been super entertaining to see him back in the league.
It really is, and also for a player like Leader, who's had a little bit of a tumultuous time up and down, 200 kills in 57 games is impressive. If Yike is able to pick up 2 more, he will match that record in 49, which is crazy.
So not that impressive, you know?
We've got the G2 fans now a little bit more muted. Let's go G2. It's going to be a little bit more of a difficult game because of the kill skid. But importantly, gold is still even. Gold is still so incredibly close.
I think Astralis, well, Finn might actually be able to make some happen here, but I think the big thing for Astralis is getting control over mid lane here with the Rift Herald, especially as this dragon is about to spawn. Leader going to have a little bit of a later reset. Might just have his TP up to make it back in, but I think then you throw this Rift Herald down to mid. That's why G2 have already started to crest across here with Hansama. They want to try and answer that potential push from Astralis.
Okay, talk to me now about the setup, the state of the game. Dead even in gold. No towers have fallen yet at 17 minutes. And we still feel that G2's scaling, G2's composition is still very powerful, especially the later this game goes, with an Azir, Kog'Maw on the front line. But it does feel like Astralis should be a little further ahead. The way that they've kind of played some of these skirmishes, they felt a little bit more proactive. Let's see whether or not they can pull off another one here as Dragon has spawned as well, Dagda.
Yeah, Finn going to come in, Rift are going to be used, Caps in trouble.
All right, 1-1-3 gets scooped over and manages to make it back out. Next target will be Mikyx. Rift Herald may not even be able to get that charge off. The Dragon is up, and BrokenBlade's got Flash, got 11, and got Mega Gnar on the horizon. Mikyx, where does the Fisher go? The target is Finn's Cassante. Kill secured for Caps. The Dragon will be easily picked up after, and this is something, again, we highlighted. The ease of use, the front to back, and those layers of CC, damn, it's hard to play against.
Yeah, I mean, Astralis misplayed the way they wanted to have their wave set up, though. Leader ended up moving towards the top side to try and push in and threaten that top side. But that meant that they were very vulnerable when they went for the mid play. You could see there was too many members of G2 there, so they couldn't actually try and force the Rift Herald dive. You don't get the play on top side either. I actually was hoping that Astralis would kind of just forego Dragon, go, look, this isn't actually really a big win condition for us. So instead, rotate topside, use Rift Herald there, try and get some gold into their pockets and then use that at the later fights. But unfortunately, it's just not really the case. So they lose the opportunity top, they lose their opportunity mid, and they lose the Dragon in the fight after. So again, G2 perfectly happy now with the smallest of goal leads, but you look at the Kog'Maw, already got that Quincy's Rage Blade, now going to be very quickly working up towards his second and third item. You're looking at the Azir as well, who's going to be easily able to pick up stuff like a Void Staff on his next rotation. Like, there's no pressure on G2 whatsoever in this game.
And of course, because of that fact, players like Hansama, who have been one of the pivotal carries, one of the guys we talked about in terms of how G2 utilizes him, didn't have the same goal lead or CSD at 14 this time around. However, with the composition with the champion he's playing, I don't think was asked to, wasn't needed to. And the fact that one tower has fallen at 19 minutes, this is exactly what G2 are hoping for, is now BrokenBlade's going to be the recipient of another gank. This is a 3v1. Mega Gnar's about to pop and Kobbe arrives. I think that final chapter, not the right angle. Prowling projectile won't slow him down. Kobbe hops over the wall. At the same time of this, pressure mid, pressure top against Astralis. The little flame chomper projectile connects. Flash from BrokenBlade. He survives and escapes. The tower should fall. The number of members of Astralis pushing, but look, Caps in the top lane. Again, the cross map, the investment, the time, it's G2 inching out a bigger lead.
Yeah, well, not going to get the tower in mid, but getting the tower in top and also that pressure in mid lane is going to work out fantastically for him. And Hansama is going to be the main benefactor of all this as well alongside Caps. But as you say for Hansama, I've been super impressed with the way that G2 have been able to play around him. The fact he's able to play things like Kog'Maw, we've seen him pop off and things like the Lucian as well. It feels like he has everything that you want to fit the bill right now. And this bot lane of Hansama and Mikyx is the strongest that we have in Europe right now. They've been dominating everyone that they've gone up against. And even yesterday, yes, G2 fell massively behind against SK, but Hansama still stayed even the entire way through, and it was the reason they could have that mega comeback. We'll have to see now again on this Kog'Maw if you can have a similar appearance.
Yeah, I mean, this time around, though, the level of control is different, right? The pace of the game, even though Astralis have thrown more punches, it is G2 that is the 2,000 gold up, 2 towers to 1. They got that second drag. Like, there's patience and there's control in terms of how G2 are approaching this game, which is actually what you want to see with the composition they've put together. Even though it's the old boys of League of Legends, they've got all utility necessary to keep a carry like Kog'Maw and Azir alive in these longer fights.
Yeah, and I think that's where Astralis, you're both starting to sail away, and it's a question of whether you can do some like fast 9 crazy flips off of ramps and stuff onto the boat, because you need fireworks right now. You need magic to happen if you want this game to start coming back in your favor. It's just starting to slip away too quickly, and with no real control over dragons, you're not going to be able to randomly start up a Baron at any point in time. You have to start looking for creative picks, and that starts with leader, right? right? You're on a Neeko. You can start to be some weird things, start making weird things happen.
And if, I think the Fast and the Furious franchise is another great allegory for the series. The very first Fast and the Furious movie.
This is fast.
Listen. The very first Fast and Furious movie was actually kind of boring, kind of slow, and there was like one drifting scene. That could be Azir's like scoop Emperor's Divide. Fast forward to Fast and Furious 10, there's what, spaceships and tanks being dropped from planes and things. That's the entire composition you're seeing from Astralis. So you've hit the nail on the head in terms of film franchises to reference. And now we're going to look at whether or not the family team composition of G2 can set up for this next dragon. A minute to go. You were critical of Astralis' wave management 5-6 minutes ago for the second dragon. What do you make of G2's setup for now? Because it looks to me like they want to play for it.
Yeah, I mean, they've already got great control, right? You just managed to entirely push in that top side of the map, which is going to make things a hell of a lot easier. You then already start to drift across here with caps to make sure you're positioned to get mid priority. And then, God damn it, and then move down into this bottom side as well. So G2, they get mid tower off of a decent rotation. And Astralis, they can try and make something happen here, but...
Do Astralis want the fight now or at the dragon? Sundisk is dropped. A couple of shallow wards in that eastern quadrant. And 5 members of G2 on the southern side of the map. Look, Astralis stepping forward. 20 seconds to dragon. The engage onto caps. He's still got the flash and the Emperor's Divide. Mikyx stepping out and the Fisher comes down. That will thwart any further engage. 5 members of Astralis in the mid lane. BrokenBlade's pushing out bottom. It's a 3,000 gold lead for G2, and they can easily set up for Dragon, but the threat that Astralis is daring them with is that they could start Baron.
I'm trying to keep my eyes on leader, though. There is a minion wave that's starting to conga through. If he becomes a minion, maybe he can catch G2 off guard in the mid lane, but not going to go for it just yet. Astralis threatened the Baron, which does draw G2 away from a moment, but Hansam and BrokenBlade would just finish it off in the bottom side for Dragon anyway, and you're still in a similar position here as Astralis.
I mean, those saplings giving so much vision and information. Dragon number 2 secured. The slow, gradual climb to another Nexus, to a guaranteed group stages. That's what's on the line here for G2. If they win this game, they will advance to groups. They are already in the season finals because they won the Winter Split. And if they close this game out as it is looking likely for now, that means they will also advance to the next stage here in the LEC Summer Split.
And G2 feel like the team to beat at the moment. Like, yes, they lost to Mad Lions, but even that was a bit of a funny business with Caps becoming wards when he shouldn't have and everything. But honestly, it feels like G2 just look unstoppable compared to the rest of the teams we have. So it kind of becomes a case of when will the gods bleed at the moment, and unfortunately for Astralis, they just don't have strong enough weapons to make it happen. So G2 going to continue pushing the top side with Caps. They're going to establish their vision control, and it's very slow and calculated from G2, but it's making it very difficult for Astralis to really do anything.
It is making it very difficult. Now, for the Astralis fans in the audience, oh, this is badly timed by me. I will come back to this, because now Kobbe starts off the fight. Unbreakable blocks so much damage. Mickey keeps Hunt Summer alive. The Fisher comes down. Yike throws out the Nature's Grasp, and Kobbe, JeongHoon 113 cannot find the kill. Because of how low they've gone and the investment in ultimates, G2 are now starting the Baron with Kog'Maw, Azir. They're going to melt through this one. And remember, Astralis are low. They also don't have key ultimates. It's conceded. Completely conceded. Astralis start the fight. They lose it, and they lose the objective.
Yeah, immediate TP in from BrokenBlade, and they're just like, great, this is fantastic. We can get this one for ourselves. Hey, as you say, Azir, Kog'Maw ripping through. 113.
Well, look at this. Mickey holds the door up. No one can get through it. Hodor indeed. BrokenBlade still got Gnar, still got Flash. Not going to need that. I mean, G2 have every single answer to the comp put forward. Over the wall, Kobbe forced to flash. He's being backed up by that Yuumi. Finn a little late to the party. Here comes leader. Tangle Bob's out. Mickey once again on that front foot. And this Braum has got so much value. Every single time he puts up that Unbreakable, it prevents Astralis doing anything.
Yeah, I just like that Mickey's thinking about Christmas when it's the middle of summer, it's 30 degrees out. I'm like, all right. You know, well, I mean, with the amount of money that G2 have this game, he can do some Christmas shopping. It's absolutely insane how big the gold lead is starting to achieve, especially when you think back to, well, they're just going to upscale to oblivion. So there's not really a huge amount that Astralis can do. So G2, again, now with Baron, you've already got Caps taking his prime position in the top side of the map once more. He's going to push that one in. As long as you stick here as your 3-man unit with Mickey, Yike, and Hansama, they can just drift across the lanes as they need to. You can see now BrokenBlade is going to be on mid-duty to just keep this priority across all the lanes.
I'm going to quickly try this one more time for the Astralis fans as they are starting to fall back. If you look at the bottom of your screen, Astralis right now have 90 championship points. There are 3.6 million ways that the season can end. That's the end of the Summer Split playoffs. And of those 3.6 million, 1.9 million of them have Astralis advancing to the season finals event that leads to Montpellier. What's crucial, Astralis need to place a minimum of 9th to make it into those season finals and have a shot at making it to Montpellier, a shot at making it to Worlds. So losing this game won't necessarily impact that hugely. Thank you, production. The standings is a great visualization there. Just a reminder, the bottom 2 teams do not make it to groups. Right now, BrokenBlade stood right on top of leader and completely disrupts, destroys, and dominates the attempted flank. It's a 6,000 gold lead. It has been slow, it has been calculated, it has been controlled, and it has been beautiful from G2. They find another kill, the 4th of the game. Yike still needs 2 to get to 200. I don't think he'll do it this time round, Dagda. The 10-year-old composition, the old boys of League, the old boys of Europe are looking for another win. And 1-1-3 will just about be taken out under the fountain. The Nexus turret will fall. And this just has been exquisite from G2.
The 10-year-olds learn to spell victory as the 2-year-olds are having a temper tantrum. JeongHoon on the base with no one else to help. G2 are going to look to pad the stats as they close this one out.
I mean, the composition from Astralis just could not find any windows of opportunity. Couldn't break down the unbreakable wall of Mikyx. G2 Esports take down Astralis.
I made it look easy.
They did.
I mean, they never really gave them an opportunity. We talked about, look, as long as you don't play for heavily into these early skirmishes where you can actually have moments for Astralis to come back, you're going to be great. Burning flashes early onto people like Leader made those skirmishes even more difficult for Astralis to find, and through that, they're able to pick up the win.
And I think in terms of the approach to the game, the Kog'Maw, the Braum, Azir, the way that G2 drafted, there's a discussion to be had in terms of how much success they found on other styles. But I think credit needs to be awarded for how they played today. They smelled something fishy in the air from Astralis and completely sussed it out. Didn't fall prey to any of the, gigantic moves or the skirmishes, and they just out-executed in nearly every single fight.
I think it's also credit to G2 for attempting several different styles you talked about.
Yes.
Like, we've seen these mid-game compositions with like Jaces and Lucians, and right, so then they can try and play for that. Now we're seeing the mega late games coming through, and it's more about a macro game. It feels like G2 have kind of gone, right, we're already guaranteed our season championship. We're probably guaranteed to make it into our top 8 with the way things are looking as well. So let's actually go and experiment and see how many different styles we can make work so we can get practice on stage with these and just make ourselves stronger when we look towards the later dates that we have.
I'm pretty sure it was yesterday's show with Frankie on the AD. Caps was talking about the fact that during the beginning of the year, he kind of went a little bit quiet, didn't really talk a lot. The game was played around bot lane, so he wasn't speaking up for either support or assistance because the game wasn't necessarily about him. And how during the winter split and spring split and MSI, he had to kind of go back to the drawing board, become comfortable again, like speaking up. And I think this is an interesting adaptation evolution. We talk about the styles, we talk about G2 showing different ways they can win. Caps is one of your nominees for Player of the Game at LEC on Twitter, along with Yike and Mikyx. But I mean, that was just a really seasoned, veteran, experienced team playing the comp well.
Yeah, and just not giving Astralis what they wanted. We talked about Astralis kind of as this team who snowballs so effectively off of their early skirmishes. Well, if you don't give them that chance, well, then G2 can just take them when they get to the late game. So fantastic stuff from their side.
And I think from Astralis, as long as they can make a pretty deep run in the playoffs here, Summer Split, their chances of making a season finals event looks good. For now, though, we're going to head on stage where Caps is standing by with Trouble.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. Caps, congratulations on the win. You guys have locked in groups.
Yes.
And now... I know you've been to Worlds finals and have made plenty of finals and you've won a lot of LEC titles, but does it still feel good just moving on to the next stage every time?
For sure. I mean, it feels good to have a 3-0 week. Would have been nice with a 3-0 week last week as well, but there was some pink wall action going on. But this time around, we just kind of played it a lot cleaner, a little bit slower. Maybe a little bit less fun, but we'll take it.
Is it a bit less fun because Azir meta is back, or is that your favorite?
I mean, I think Azir is actually fun, but he's for sure not as fun as Neeko. So, yeah, hopefully they can get it for next week.
All right, talking about Azir and Neeko, if you can put up the draft so you can walk me through it. There were a few shenanigans that happened over in the draft. For example, there was a Blitzcrank ban. What was that all about?
I mean, so I think Astralis had a really good Blitzcrank performance. I think it was last week, or maybe it was even this week. But he played a really good game of Blitz. So just taking that out, avoiding any random hooks coming around is always nice. And then we were confident we could just beat them.
And I see you guys are the only team that pretty much values Kog'Maw so much. Why is that the case? Is it because like Maokai and Azir are just such big bodyguards for him?
And for sure, it seems very strong in our games. Hans is doing very well on it. And especially in the later parts of the game, he just takes over the team fight. So quite happy with the Kog'Maw games this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Hans popped off. You popped off onto the Azir as well. Now, I want to ask you, because a lot of coaches, a lot of players have said Azir is so overpowered he can take over games. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I mean, I definitely think it's quite strong on this patch. And definitely one of the mids to look out for.
Now, Caps, you have locked in groups. But are you happy with the performance of the team so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been playing quite well. I think this week was maybe like our early games were a bit like not the best early games for sure. I think most of our mid games were pretty decent, but we for sure need to like clean up our early game a bit as well. We also played very like scaling drafts this weekend though, so I guess that has something to do with it as well. And we're still playing very aggressive with them, which is probably like not as easy. So I think if we clean up a bit of that, I think we're in good form for playoffs.
What would you say is that one thing that you guys need to develop in the early game for it to be a bit cleaner?
I mean, I think we just need to find like our limits with the more scaling drafts, because we are like a very aggressive team. We like to play a lot of aggressive drafts, and then we like to just snowball super hard. But it's definitely harder to do the same plays with the champs we're picking right now. But then in return, we get the super good late game and a lot of comebacks. So that feels good.
Wow, I was just about to ask you, do you still think that G2 is a multi-carry team? But every single one of you except the Braum pretty much popped off on the damage. But do you still think that that is the case for your team?
I mean, definitely, I think we're able to win through everyone. And I think all of us have had good games and are able to take over the games. So it kind of depends a bit on the meta, kind of depends a bit on what we're cooking as well. But we'll see for next week. Talking
about cooking, now that you're locked in and that is behind you, could there be some cooking next week? Because you're playing against XL, Koi, and Heretics.
I mean, we definitely have to go all out for Heretics. I think Yankees and FLICKR, right?
Of course.
We need to beat them for sure. But there can probably be some cooking in some of the other games.
Oh, actually, I can't wait to see. I'm obviously not going to ask you what you guys are cooking. We're going to wait to see. But I just want to ask you in general, Caps, you've been with G2 through thick and thin. You've been to so many events. You've won so many titles. What is one thing that you're grateful for being in G2?
I mean, I'm just grateful for the staff and the people around me. I think I've been through so many different iterations of teammates and teams, and it's always nice to have the support from the staff and also just like the drive to be better and just to become the best.
That is absolutely great. I wish you all the best, Caps, for next week. Congrats again on a flawless weekend. We're gonna go into a very quick break, but don't go anywhere because when we're back, it's Koi versus K.
Is now backed up. Here comes a Yike. That's already the kill. It was turned into a 1v2. Cassante doing Cassante things, and Yike can do naught but step for his life. Backwards, double kill for Finn. Right now, BrokenBlade stood right on top of leader and completely the 10-year-old composition. The old boys of League, the old boys of Europe are looking for another win.